We have one and only Miss Mosunmola Umoru, fruity farmer. I'm sure you've heard about her. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Wandie.
Can you give us a little bit of background of how you got into agriculture?
Wow, taking me down memory lane. My foray into the sector started about 13 years ago. Straight out of college, by the way. I had recently graduated, and my father had gone to report me to one of his friends that I had refused to take on a paid job. And she turned out to be the manager of a food company, and they were involved in the QSR business. So they have a retail brand for food. And I'd spent time with this lady and chatting about, how it is as a young person. Everyone thinks they have a solution to your problem. And so here's an auntie scolding me and trying to help me understand why I need to take on a paid job and have a secure financial future and all of that. But fortunately for me, I was very astute. I knew what I wanted. And the beauty was that I had a notepad, I had a journal on my lap. So I was just listening to her as she was chatting away. And I asked her where she had issues in her business, in her operations. And as she chatted away, she mentioned the fact that they had issues with sourcing certain raw materials for their production, chicken, snails being one of the foremost ones, and that all year round they usually would not get consistent supply. And for me, that was just an eureka moment. I just saw a new business opportunity and a niche that I could leverage. Back in secondary school, fortunately for me, I was an active member of the Young Farmers Club.
Oh, okay.
So, my father wasn't very excited that here you are, you're working in the food sector. To be clear, I did pray to God about what he wanted me to do when I quit medical school. And I heard God clearly say to me, food. So I've tried everything from baking to catering to cooking, outdoor catering. Very small numbers, 50 guest max. And here I am with a lady who is telling me she's having issues with procurement of farm produce. And for me, that was a huge business opportunity. So I left her office and flew straight to Abuja to register my company so I could be a vendor to their operations. That company, by the way, is the Tantalizer's retail brand.
Oh, okay.
And having done that, you can just imagine, young, crazy, full of energy, rushed to Abuja, registered a company so I could be an accredited vendor, only to come back and tell myself, look, there's more to this process. So I started sourcing. I was sourcing snails from Ogbeh, from Ondo, and then I will deliver to the outlets. And it was an exciting journey. But to confirm her fears and concerns, about 6 months into my operations, I really didn't have any product to supply because snails were out of season because they were largely gathered in the wild. Poultry component of my operations at the time was dependent on farmers who were more concerned about breeding for the festive season. And then I realized that, look, there was no way I could stay in the retail space. I needed to do a backward integration. And I acquired my first leased farm. So within 6 months, that didn't come without challenges, by the way, because 2 years into the operation, I realized that I had leased the property from a guy who didn't turn out to be the owner.
Oh, wow.
So, that's how the journey started. And today, it's been a 13 years long journey. Lots of lessons, lots of pain, joy, but trust me, if I had a second chance to live another life again, I'll come down this route.
So you focused more on poultry, livestock?
Poultry, yes.
Okay, snails. And do you sell to end users of restaurants?
Oh yes. So we have a mixed array of clients. Initially, we were doing the large off-takers who were basically the QSRs and restaurants and caterers. But very recently, we did divert our focus and try to focus on a new group of individuals. So we now do home delivery. Okay. We have a retail outlet in Ikeja, and we also do door-to-door delivery for home users. We do not just serve corporates, we serve home users as well.
So being in the private sector, how have you had access to finance, working in that sector? Because everybody wants to invest into agriculture, and you've been lucky, you've done it for 13 years. Right. So were you able to get funds from family members, or you worked in a bank, any local funds?
I've raised funds through diverse means, I must say. I've been very fortunate. I've raised money from friends and family. I've also raised structured finance, because the beauty about my operations over the years has been that I have tried to learn how to leverage the financial institutions. So we've gotten money from a few banks over the years, though it wasn't very easy because they did require collateral. But at some point we got lucky. We got the SME fund out of the Stanbic IBTC Bank. Okay. And that did help us accelerate our operations at some point. But largely, I have had direct investments from individuals, friends and family, and as they say in the business school, the fools who have believed in the vision, as crazy as it might seem. So yes, I've leveraged all financing platforms.
So how are you able to expand your business land-wise?
Well, the beauty about the expansion phase of the operations is that I have also learned to bring in partners. So the first 5 years, to be honest, I ran the business solely. But over the last 7 years, I've learned to also bring in partners into the business who are injecting funds for the expansion project. So the whole journey started off as a sole proprietorship venture. But today we have a new company that has been formed, and that company has shareholders who are helping to drive the fundraising process. So we're leveraging the skills of everyone who's on board.
Okay, so now after 13 years of experience, you're able to transition to the public sector. That's interesting. Well, so you're now a senior advisor on gender and youth to the current minister, Chief Audu Ogbeh.
Yes, please.
So how's that going?
A very interesting shift. There was a bit of a cultural shock for me, because transitioning from the private sector, where you tend to have a lot more control over all that you do, and coming into the space where there's a lot of bureaucratic processes to go through. It's a learning curve, I must say, but a very interesting one. I enjoy every day of working in the ministry with the minister, because as a young person, he exposes me into the leadership structure of our country, and he also, as an advocate for youth inclusion in governance and in the policy space, for me, it's a first-hand experience, and I really do treasure the opportunity to serve my country and serve the minister as well.
So coming from, obviously, the private sector, you understand the challenges of the private sector.
Absolutely.
So what changes are you guys making now in the public sector?
So the first thing we did visit was review existing policies. When we came in, there was the ATA, and the minister,
what exactly is
the Agricultural Transformation Agenda. And the Honourable Minister, Chief Audu Ogbeh, was very specific about the fact that there will be no policy somersault and that there had to be consistency. So all we did was review the existing policies and try and review them to ensure that we can action a lot of the policies that were in place. But in addition to that, we rechristened the policy drive for the ag sector, the Green Alternative, that's the APP. And through the Green Alternative, what we have done is try and identify our priority areas. So 4 key priorities for the country is food security for our nation, job creation for our people, economic diversification is very key on the front burner of this administration. And lastly, as you know, for many years, our economy has been driven largely by the revenue generated from the oil sector. And now we're really closely looking at the import substitution for a lot of the commodities that are available in country.
So
So I mean, it's interesting because for the food security, it might also interest you that only last week, the National Food Security and Nutrition Strategy was launched, which is a 10-year long strategy. And what that strategy seeks to do is help prioritize commodities that we should invest in, and to help the nation become food secure. So how do we get households into the farming business? How to get more young people and women to focus on nutritional foods, high nutrient-based food commodities, and also for us to begin to work on improved variety for young children, for the women, and also begin to work on investing as a country in ensuring that our people are actually safe and food secure. And we manage the nutrition deficiency as well, because malnutrition is a big issue on the continent. And for us as a country, it's time to begin to focus on ensuring that our citizens actually do consume not just food that is available, but nutritious food as well.
Okay. So since your role is focused on gender and youth,
yes, please.
And youth, we have a lot of youth unemployed, so we're trying to make agriculture attractive, bring youth to agriculture. How do you encourage youth and attract them to agriculture?
Well, one of the biggest challenges we have identified beyond unemployment, the unemployment gap in the country and within the sector specifically, is the fact that we also have a skills deficit. You know, there are many young people who are in the employment bracket. But most of them are not employable within the sector because they lack the requisite skill that the jobs available within the sector today has. So for us, a key priority is capacity building across various value chains. So take commodities like rice, maize production, which are high priority for us, both for human consumption and for industry. The ministry is really looking at building the capacity of young persons in the country across those value chains. Aquaculture, horticulture is a big component of our focus. And we're also beginning to look long term. For us, it's not just about preparing for now. There are certain crops that have high export value and that have long gestation periods. So we're encouraging, one of the programs that the Honourable Minister is also very particular about is the plantations development for the future. So he tags it the Grow Your Future campaign. So how we can get more young people to actually begin to get involved in the ag sector and not really think about short-term income, but long-term. So a strategy is being put in place to engage more citizens to actually grow plantations. So cocoa, oil palm, cashew, kenaf, commodities that we're beginning to encourage people to go into their production. And kenaf might interest you a bit because it's something that we don't talk about. When I was growing up, I saw a lot of the groundnut pyramids, and the groundnuts were stored in jute bags. Today, we no longer produce as much jute bags. We're beginning to put food items in polypropylene sacks, which is not ideal for food-based commodities because it also impacts their shelf life, especially if you're exporting those cash crops. So we want to see how the government is looking at encouraging more people to begin to focus on such commodities to actually increase income in that direction.
Interesting. So how do youth access these programs? How do they know about it?
So there's a youth division within the ministry. As you know, I work with a politically appointed officer, but there's a division within the ministry that works closely with the minister to ensure that all programs are for us, it's about institutionalization. We're not just running as the minister's office. So the ministry is responsible, that division is responsible for interfacing with both state governments and ministries of agriculture to actually implement most of the programs. As you know, majorly land is domiciled with the state. So the federal government comes up with policies, but then the main actors and drivers are at the state level. So for us, it's that creating that strong synergy with the states to ensure that we engage on a constant basis and prioritize commodities with each state where they have comparative advantage. So each state has a higher leverage with one commodity over another state. So that's the primary approach. So we'll work with the state ADPs, we'll work with the state commissions and agencies of agriculture, and our own the federal regional offices as well, to deploy most of those programs. But for information, the ministry's website is very active, and young people can also follow the Federal Ministry of Agriculture on all social media platforms.
So where can they get this information from?
Well, I advise young people to constantly visit the ministry's website, which is www.fmard.gov.ng.
Okay. So your work is also focused on gender.
Yes.
And then we have a lot of challenges for women in the sector, in agri sector. They don't have access to land, access to finance. They're the ones working with no awareness, nothing, but the men are the ones profiting. Can you share some insights on that?
I do not completely agree. Yes, the women do. There's a lot of women. There are a lot of women involved in the ag sector, but I may not necessarily say that it's the men profiting. Okay. I think that the men profit more at the commercial level. Okay. There's still a number of women involved in subsistence farming, and that is not the reason for that is not far-fetched. So we also have within different communities, we have cultural biases and issues that the sector may not readily address. In some communities, women are not even allowed to be seen. So how then do you engage women that you cannot interact with, except you're a woman? So we do have strong limitations that they're not necessarily an agricultural challenge. They're more of a social challenge for us as a people. But at the ministry, the Gender and Youth Division constantly engages women in communities, again, by building their capacity, by giving them access to technology, low-cost technology that is accessible for them to use. So as opposed to using the cutlass and the hoe, there are a few held equipment that are available also at the ministry. So one of the channels that is being adopted to engage women primarily is through the co-op systems. So in most of the communities, they're encouraged to form cooperatives so they can leverage each other's competencies and resources and share resources as well. Another model that is being adopted in country is the clustering model, where we have clusters of production. So if you're within a community and you're producing rice, again, you're encouraged to form co-ops, so jointly you can access finance, you can buy equipment together, you can leverage inputs from the government, both at state and federal level, and that's what the division encourages. Even for young people, there's strength in numbers that cannot be overemphasized. So the overarching goal for us is to crowd in more young people, especially in the private sector, and professionals who have requisite skills to actually begin to structure the ag sector. And we're beginning to see that emerge. You have quite a number of young persons transitioning from corporate banking sector, the oil and gas sector, architecture, engineering. The ICT is we're beginning to see droves of them coming in to actually drive the revolution that the sector requires today for the growth that we do desire. So for me, it's the constant work. It's going to be ongoing.
Yeah.
It is never going to finish in one day. It's a journey. Mm-hmm. And for me, I think that it's important that we all remember that as a country, we're going through a very interesting phase. Mm-hmm. And we should just be patient to enjoy that journey and enjoy the process and understand that we're all actors in the process of change that we desire to see, and we should all just contribute our own quota. Okay, so the ministry is involved in a lot of programs and initiatives, both for young persons and for commercial actors as well. Primarily, the Federal Ministry of Agriculture is an enabler. So the federal government is working on the ease of doing business and ensuring that it becomes easy for people to invest in the agricultural sector. At state level, I know that there have been a lot of policies to drive access to land and also for the federal government to constantly invest more in infrastructure. And as we do that, I really just want to encourage a lot of Nigerians out there listening that Nigeria is our country and it's our responsibility to join forces with the federal, state, and local government to transform our country and be actively involved in that developmental process. We do not need violence, we do not need aggression, we all just need to be participatory actors. If this country disintegrates, we will be the losers for it. So I want to encourage everyone out there. Food is one thing we all can't do without. And I encourage as many as can come into the agricultural sector to plug in and leverage the opportunities that are available across various value chains and position themselves strategically to take advantage of those opportunities, be it in crop production, horticulture, livestock, animal husbandry. Let's all just get involved. There's processing and packaging, there are tons of opportunities in distribution, there are opportunities along the logistics chain. I can go on and on, the list is endless. I think it's time for us to just quit complaining and do something.